brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. The Goonies. The Goonies is a 1985 American adventure comedy film directed by Richard Donner, who produced with Harvey Bernard. The screenplay was written by Chris Columbus from a story by executive producer Steven Spielberg. A band of pre-teens who live in the Boondocks neighborhood of Astoria, Oregon, attempt to save their homes from demolition, and, in doing so, discover an old Spanish map that leads them on an adventure to unearth the long-lost fortune of One-Eyed Willie, a legendary 17th-century pirate. During the entire adventure, they are chased by a family of criminals, who also want the treasure for themselves. Warner Brothers released it on June 7, 1985, in the United States. The film grossed $61.5 million worldwide and has become a cult film. Plot: facing foreclosure of their homes in the Boondocks area of Astoria, Oregon, to an expanding country club, a group of children who call themselves the Goonies gather for a final weekend together. The Goonies include optimist Mikey Walsh, his older brother, Brand, the inventive Data, the talkative Mouth, and the overweight Klutz Chunk. While rummaging through the Walsh's attic, they come across a 1632 doubloon and an old treasure map purporting to lead to the famous pirate, One-Eyed Willie's hoard located nearby. Evading Brand for one last adventure together, the kids find themselves at a derelict restaurant near the coast, which coincides with the doubloon and the map. They encounter the Fratellis, a family of criminals hiding out at the restaurant. Evading detection by returning outside, the kids run into Brand and two girls, the popular cheerleader Andy, who has a mutual crush on Brand, and Steph, Andy's nerdy, tough-talking best friend. Mikey convinces Brand to return to the restaurant to explore after the Fratellis leave, discovering that the criminals are running a counterfeiting operation. As the Fratellis return, the group finds a tunnel beneath the restaurant and hides in there, sending Chunk to notify the authorities. They explore the tunnel and find the remains of a previous explorer, who also searched for the treasure, and Mikey is sure they are on the right trail. Evading various booby traps set up by Willie, they find themselves under an old wishing well. The kids have a chance to be pulled out of the tunnel by Andy's obnoxious boyfriend Troy, whose family owns the country club, but Mikey convinces the group to continue on the journey. Meanwhile, Chunk, who has escaped the restaurant, tries to flag down several passing cars, but is intercepted and kidnapped by Deacon Francis Fratelli. When the Fratellis threaten to shred his hands with an active blender, a terrified Chunk reveals not only where his friends are, but also the existence of the treasure. The Fratellis tie Chunk to a chair and lock him in the basement next to Sloth, their deformed younger brother kept chained to the wall. While the Fratellis pursue both the Goonies and the treasure, Chunk befriends Sloth, and Sloth is able to break their bonds. They form a third party headed into the tunnel. Mikey and the others discover the Fratellis on the trail, and hasten through the remaining traps. They ultimately find an enclosed grotto and Willie's pirate ship, the Inferno, which has been sealed in the cave for centuries. They explore the ship, finding a hoard of treasure in front of the skeletal remains of Willie and his crew. Mikey gives a sober speech to Willie, naming him as the first Goonie, then he and the others fill their pockets with riches. Mikey insists that the coins directly in front of Willie remain untouched, as Willie's tribute. As they leave, however, the Fratellis have already caught up with them. They make them drop the treasure before threatening to kill them by forcing them to walk the plank. When suddenly Sloth and Chunk arrive, Sloth, angered by how the other Fratellis have treated him in the past, easily subdues them, and helps the rest of the Goonies to escape the boat. Though Mikey insists they go back for the treasure, Brand worries more for their lives, and the group escapes through a hole in the grotto, eventually arriving on a nearby beach shore. Police quickly come to their help and reunite them with their families. Meanwhile, the Fratellis free themselves and begin to loot the boat. When they take the coins that Mikey had left earlier, they trigger another booby trap that causes the grotto to start to cave in. The Fratellis are forced to abandon the loot and flee to the beach, where police quickly take them into custody. As the Goonies are taken care of by their families, including Chunk offering to bring Slothan to his family, the owners of the country club show up and demand that Mr. Walsh sign away the homes in the Goondocks. As he is about to do so, their housekeeper, Rosalita, finds Mikey's marble bag in his wet clothes, filled with gems that the Fratellis had neglected to confiscate. Mr. Walsh triumphantly tears up the paperwork, as the gems are more than enough to negate the foreclosure. As the Goonies celebrate, the attention of all on the beach is caught by the sight of the unmanned Inferno, now clear of the grotto, and the Goonies wave her goodbye as she sets off once more upon the sea. Production. Principal photography on The Goonies began on October 22, 1984 and lasted 5 months. There was an additional 6 weeks of audio dubbing recording. The shooting script was lengthy, at more than 120 pages, and several sequences were eventually cut from the final theatrical version. During the film's denouement, mention is made of an octopus, which refers to a scene that was excised from the final cut. In the making of The Goonies, director Richard Donner notes the difficulties and pleasures of working with so many child actors. Donner praises them for their energy and excitement, but says that they were unruly when brought together. The documentary frequently shows him coaching the young actors and reveals some techniques he used to get realistic performances. One of these tricks involved One-Eyed Willie's ship, which was actually a full-size mock-up of a pirate ship created under the direction of production designer J. Michael Reaver. Donner restricted the child actors from seeing the ship until they filmed the scene wherein it is revealed to their characters. The characters' first glimpse of the ship was thus also the actors' first view of it, bringing about a more realistic performance. However, that particular scene in the movie is actually the second shot, as the cast was so overwhelmed at first sight that the scene had to be reshot. It was later noted that the entire set was scrapped after shooting because they could not find anyone who wanted it. In his book There and Back Again, Sean Astin claims that Richard Donner and Steven Spielberg were like co-directors on the film, as he compares and contrasts their styles when directing scenes. Some of the on-location filming was done in Astoria, Oregon. The interior and exterior of the old Clatsop County Jail features as the holding place of Jake Fratelli. At the start of the film, the museum where Mikey's father works is, in reality, the Captain George Flavel House Museum. The Walsh family home is a real home at 368 38th Street. The scenes along the coast were filmed in Oregon, but they were a considerable distance from Astoria. The Goonies bicycle to Ecola State Park, and then find the starting location of the map using Haystack Rock as a guide. Underground scenes were filmed at Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank, California, including the cavernous set where the Goonies find One-Eyed Willie's ship, which was in Stage 16, one of the largest sound stages in America. The final scene was shot at Goat Rock State Beach in Sonoma County, California. The film marked Wes Takahashi's first major motion picture as an animation supervisor for Industrial Light and Magic. Music and soundtrack. The Goonies' original motion picture soundtrack features music by Cyndi Lauper, Rio Speedwagon, The Bangles, and others. The cast members appeared alongside professional wrestlers, Roddy Piper, and Captain Lou Albano in the 12-minute "The Goonies Are Good Enough" music video. Steven Spielberg makes a cameo appearance. Lauper also has a cameo in the film, performing the song on TV, although the song was not completed until after filming. Dave Gruzin's score was unavailable for 25 years. The main theme, Fratelli Chase, has been used in numerous trailers, such as Inner Space and Guarding Tess, and was re-recorded by Gruzin and the London Symphony Orchestra for the album Cine Magic. The score makes liberal use of the Max Steiner-composed theme from Adventures of Don Juan. Soundtrack label Varese Sarabande released the score in March 2010 in a limited edition of 5,000 copies. Release. Warner Brothers released the film in cinemas in the United States on June 7, 1985. The Goonies grossed $9 million in its opening weekend in the U.S., second on the charts behind Rambo: First Blood Part 2. It grossed more than $61 million that year, placing it among the top 10 highest-grossing films of 1985 in the U.S. The Goonies was first released on VHS and Betamax video in the United States in March 1986. And the Laserdisc and CED versions also debuted that year. Warner Home Video released a theatrical widescreen Laserdisc on January 29, 1992. Warner Home Video released The Goonies in widescreen on Region 1 DVD on August 21, 2001. Warner Home Video released The Goonies on Blu-ray disc in October 2008 in Europe and November 2010 in North America. The video is in 1080p high-definition VC1 and accompanied by a Dolby Trude soundtrack. Critical response. Review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes reports that 70% of critics have given the film a positive review based on 46 reviews. The average rating is 6.1. The critical consensus, an energetic, sometimes noisy mix of Spielbergian sentiment and funhouse tricks that will appeal to kids and nostalgic adults alike. At Metacritic it has a rating score of 60, indicating mixed or average reviews. Several reviewers noted that the film appeared to be enjoyable for children and teens, but not so much for adults. Video games. Datasoft produced a Goonies video game for Commodore 64, Atari 8-bit family and Apple II in 1985, which was later ported to the ZX Spectrum and Amstrad CPC by US Gold. This game features 8 screens in which a player had to use 2 members of the Goonies group to solve puzzles and reach an exit to advance to the next stage. The screens were largely inspired by actual sets and puzzles seen in the film. A reference to the aforementioned octopus scene is included as the 7th level. In 1986, Japanese game developer Konami created 2 versions of the Goonies for the MSX in Japan and Europe, and Family Computer in Japan. The Goonies 2 was also released on the Famicom. The Goonies 2 was released in North America, Europe and Australia. Although the original was one of the NES games released as part of the Nintendo Versus System arcade machine in the 1980s, The Goonies 2 has little to do with the film. In it, The Fratellis have kidnapped all the Goonies and hide them in hidden cages from across a terrain of caverns, mazes and abandoned buildings. As Mikey, the player must rescue them all and ultimately free a mermaid named Annie. In February 2007, Chrysler's Jeep division sponsored the Goonies: Return to Astoria, a Flash-based game developed by Fuel Industries. The player's goal is to collect map pieces and doubloons, and then race the Fratellis to One-Eyed Willie's treasure. A Goonies level pack for LEGO Dimensions was released on May 9, 2017. The pack includes a sloth minifigure and constructible pirate ship and skeleton organ, and unlocks a bonus level that adapts the plot of the film. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.